So, I'm creating this video because someone has asked me this question: is there a difference between racism and unconscious bias? This is based on a conversation or an interview that Prince Harry was having, and he said there's a difference between racism and unconscious bias. So, I thought it's really important to comment on this. I don't normally comment on political issues for my own well-being, but this is important. So, in order to answer the question, what I'll do is I'll define racism, define unconscious bias, and then I'll answer it. So, um, firstly, there are three main types of racism. You have systemic racism. So this is a system in which public policies, institutional practices, cultural representations, and other norms work in various ways to perpetuate racial group inequity. Okay, so see this as a worldwide issue in which if you are racially marginalized, you are treated unfairly based on your skin color. Your skin color has been given a value, and based on that, you generally are treated unfairly. It's a worldwide system, and it infiltrates cultures, infiltrates institutions, individuals, and so on. Okay. Now, then you also have institutional racism. Think of this as systemic racism, on a organizational level. Okay, so this is where again policies, attitudes, behaviors, all of those perpetuate that group inequity. Okay, so they work towards marginalizing ethnic minorities or racially marginalized people. Then you have individual racism. So this is based on racial stereotypes and prejudice attitudes. Okay, so it can be conscious or unconscious, and it includes name calling, ignoring, general poor treatment, and acting violently. But notice we're talking about individual racism that can be conscious or unconscious. Okay, we'll come back to that. So now, unconscious biases, what are they? Unconscious biases are a set of stereotypes formulated in the brain about individuals and groups of people without a conscious awareness, okay? You are not conscious that you're prejudging people or groups of people, okay? One of the biggest unconscious biases is that I don't have unconscious bias. Well, we do, okay? Um, so if you note here, there's no reference to race, and that's because unconscious bias can apply to any difference. Okay, any difference. So I may not like people who I don't know. I may not like people who wear green outfits. I may not like people who are into tattoos. I may not like people because they're gay. I may not like people because they are disabled, and so on. So there's a wide range of reasons why I may not like somebody on an unconscious level. Consciously, I love everybody, but unconsciously, I may not like some people. So as you notice, I haven't said that unconscious bias are always to do with race. Okay, now when we talk about something like infrahumanization theory, which is a type of unconscious bias, this is the belief that people in the outgroup, all the people who are different to us, are subhuman and not equipped to experience complex emotion like people in the in-group. That can refer to race. Okay, so basically it's saying, oh, all black people are violent, or all Asian people are really sensitive to pain, or all Gypsy Roma travelers are whatever. So it's when you have these big sweeping dehumanization generalizations that are unconscious, that certainly refers to race. Okay, so what we're talking about here are racial unconscious biases. So that those unconscious biases being based on the fact that somebody is from a different socially constructed race. So is there a difference between racism and unconscious bias? Yes, because you can have unconscious bias and it be towards someone that not because of their race, but then you have racial bias, which is absolutely the same as racism, which can be conscious or unconscious. So just to make sure the answer is clear, yes, but there's no difference between racism and racial unconscious bias, apart from the unconscious bit, okay? So it's still racism. Whether it's unconscious or conscious, it's still racism. So I think it's about language, okay? Racial unconscious bias and racism are exactly the, well, do the same thing, okay? So you can have racism that's not unconscious, but you can't have racial unconscious bias that isn't racism. Okay, I hope that helps.